Imagine pouring your heart and fortune into a community project, only to be scorned by the very man managing it. Not for incompetence, but because he judged you on sight. This is the story of a powerful philanthropist, a judgmental landlord, and how one man's prejudice cost him everything. Dr. Imani Rhodes was a name whispered in boardrooms and revered in philanthropic circles, though rarely seen in headlines. A self-made woman, she had built a quiet empire from the ground up, her intelligence and foresight turning modest investments into monumental successes. Imani believed true power wasn't in flashing wealth, but in strategic, anonymous impact. She didn't seek accolades, she sought change. Her philosophy was simple: empower communities from within, allowing the work to speak for itself. Because of this, few knew the full extent of her vast investments, or the depth of her commitment to projects often overlooked by others. One of Imani's most cherished endeavors was Humiliates, a beacon of modern community housing nestled in the city's bustling heart. More than just apartments, Humiliates was a vibrant ecosystem, providing affordable, safe homes and wraparound services for families striving for a better future. Here, children found stable ground for education, parents gained access to job training, and neighbors became an extended family. Aisha, a single mother who had found refuge and renewed purpose within its walls, often spoke of Humiliates as her lifeline, a place where dignity was restored and dreams were nurtured. It was a testament to what thoughtful investment could achieve. Humiliates, however, was not always the thriving community it appeared. It had faced financial struggles, teetering on the brink of collapse until Imani's foundation, operating through a carefully constructed shell company, stepped in. Millions of dollars flowed from her private equity group, securing the project's future and expanding its reach. On paper, Dr. Imani Rhodes' name was nowhere to be found. Her intent was to ensure the project's mission remained paramount, unburdened by her personal brand or public recognition. She wanted the community to flourish purely on its own merit, a quiet force ensuring its stability. Overseeing the day-to-day operations of Humiliates was Mr. Silas Thorne, the property manager. Thorne had an ego as expansive as his meticulously polished shoes. He prided himself on maintaining strict order, often mistaking rigidity for efficiency. He believed appearances were everything, quick to dismiss anyone who didn't fit his narrow perception of respectability or financial stability. Thorne saw himself as the benevolent gatekeeper, the sole arbiter of who belonged and who didn't. What he didn't know was that the very foundation supporting his domain was controlled by the woman he was about to tragically underestimate. Late evening in his cluttered office, Mr. Silas Thorne hunched over ledgers, the dim light reflecting off his balding head. His personal finances, a tangle of overdue bills and dwindling savings, mocked his self-proclaimed business acumen. Humiliates, the community project he managed, was supposed to be his golden ticket, a steady stream of income to prop up his own precarious lifestyle. Yet, through a combination of petty mismanagement and outright neglect, even Humiliates teetered on the edge of deficit. He scowled, pushing aside a half-eaten, cheap takeout meal. Thorne's arrogance, however, was a thick shield, blinding him to the fact that his position, and indeed his entire financial future, hung by a thread he didn't even know existed. He was a king on a throne of cards, convinced of his own untouchable power. Months prior, Humiliates had been on the brink. Funding had dried up, maintenance was deferred, and the promise of affordable, dignified housing was fading fast. That's when the Rhodes Philanthropic Group, Dr. Imani Rhodes' foundation, quietly stepped in. From her elegant conference room, overseeing a secure video call with her legal and financial team, Imani had orchestrated the rescue. The terms of the investment were meticulously structured, designed to protect the community and ensure its long-term viability, while keeping Imani's name completely out of the public eye. Mr. Thorne, seeing only the influx of desperately needed capital, had happily signed the agreements. He never bothered to read the fine print, the clauses that granted the anonymous foundation immense power, effectively placing his entire domain under its unseen authority. With the foundation's millions flowing in, Humiliates stabilized. The buildings received much-needed repairs, and new programs were tentatively introduced. And Mr. Silas Thorne? He strutted around the management office like a peacock. Leaning back in his chair, feet propped on his desk, he'd bark into his phone, taking full credit for the project's turnaround. Yes, the foundation is a necessary evil, he'd declare to anyone who would listen, but it's *log leadership that truly makes a difference here. He dismissed the Rhodes philanthropic group as a faceless, bureaucratic entity, a well of money with no real influence. His ego, already inflated, now swelled to dangerous proportions, setting the perfect stage for his inevitable spectacular fall. Meanwhile, in the vibrant communal areas of Hope Heights, a different story unfolded. Children laughed as they played in the newly repaired playground. Neighbors gathered for potlucks, sharing stories of gratitude. Aisha, a resident whose life had been transformed by the stable housing and newfound community, often shared how Hope Heights had given her a fresh start. "This place," she'd tell her neighbors, a warm smile on her face, "it's more than just an apartment. It's hope." Their appreciation was genuine, their relief palpable, but their gratitude, heartfelt as it was directed at the project itself, or at most, to the vague idea of a benevolent funder. They had no idea the true architect of their hope walked among them, unrecognized. Thousands of miles away, in the quiet sanctuary of her home office, Dr. Imani Rhodes maintained her vigilant oversight. Late into the night, she reviewed detailed reports on Hope Heights, noting Thorne's management style, the budget allocations, and, most importantly, the resident feedback. What started as minor complaints, disguised as constructive criticism in the reports, began to paint a troubling picture. Thorne's arrogance was not just an inconvenience, it was a growing concern, impacting the very community Imani had invested so deeply in. A subtle unease settled within her. Her strategic mind, always several steps ahead, began to formulate a plan. It was clear, a direct, unannounced intervention was fast approaching. Dr. Imani Rhodes, a woman whose empire was built on strategic silence, sat in her elegant office. The city skyline stretched beyond her panoramic window, a testament to her quiet influence. Her gaze, however, was fixed on an email. It was a brief message from a community liaison at Hope Heights, detailing a minor but recurring instance of Mr. Thorne's inflexibility regarding a resident's appeal for a small amenity repair. On paper, the issue was trivial, but for Imani, it was a seed of doubt, a subtle crack in the foundation she had so carefully laid. Reports could tell one story, but direct observation, that told the truth. She needed to see the true atmosphere, not just curated data. With a determined look, she closed her laptop. The time for passive monitoring was over. The next morning, Imani stood before her closet, a collection of designer wear she rarely flaunted. Today, however, called for a different kind of attire. Her mission was simple: blend in. She selected a pair of dark, comfortable jeans, a simple cream-colored linen top, and understated leather sneakers. Her usual statement jewelry, the bespoke watch, the diamond stud earrings, remained in their velvet boxes. No designer handbag, just a practical tote. Her goal was to observe authentically, to experience Hope Heights not as its unseen benefactor, but as one of its residents. She wanted no assumptions made, no special treatment offered. A quick glance in the mirror confirmed it. She was just another woman, ready to walk through a community she had built, unnoticed. Mid-morning, Imani arrived at Hope Heights. She parked her modest sedan discreetly a block away, choosing to walk the rest of the distance. As she strolled through the well-maintained grounds, her keen eyes took in every detail. Children played in the park area, their laughter echoing, a testament to the community's vibrant spirit. Yet, beneath the surface, subtle signs of neglect caught her attention: a flickering light in a communal hallway, a faded notice on a bulletin board, a slightly overgrown patch of shrubs near one of the buildings. These were the small, almost imperceptible details that confirmed her growing unease about Thorne's leadership. He managed the big picture, but the small, human touches seemed to escape him. Near the community garden, Imani paused. There, tending to a small plot of herbs, was Aisha. She was laughing warmly with another resident, sharing tips on cultivation. Imani watched from a slight distance, a soft smile touching her lips. She overheard snippets of conversation, frustrations about a recent policy change, but also deep gratitude for the stability Hope Heights provided. The community's spirit was resilient, a testament to the vision Imani had poured millions into. It reaffirmed her belief in the project and strengthened her resolve. Any problems, any mismanagement, had to be addressed. The residence deserved nothing less than the excellence she had envisioned. With her observations complete, Imani turned towards the management office. This was the heart of the operation, the place where Thorne held court. As she walked down the busy corridor, she passed other residents, some looking anxious, others weary, as they approached the office. There was a general air of apprehension, a sense that approaching management was a chore, not a collaborative effort. Imani's jaw subtly tightened. The reports had hinted at a disconnect, but seeing it in person, feeling the low hum of discomfort, solidified her decision. The tension built with every step as she approached the domain of Mr. Silas Thorne, ready to face the gatekeeper of her own creation. Dr. Imani Rhodes walked into the Hope Heights management office, the quiet hum of the building giving way to the low chatter of a few residents waiting. She approached the reception counter, her casual attire, dark jeans, a simple cream-colored top, and comfortable sneakers, carefully chosen to observe without drawing attention. Behind the counter, perched on a high stool, was Mr. Silas Thorne. He looked up, his eyes, usually narrowed in suspicion, sweeping over Imani. He saw a black woman, casually dressed, and immediately dismissed her. A faint sneer played on his lips, a silent judgment that resonated with years of practiced prejudice. He didn't see an investor. He saw another tenant, likely with a complaint, or worse, an overdue bill. His body language alone was a brick wall, anticipating conflict with someone he deemed beneath him. Before Imani could even state her purpose, Thorne slid off his stool, his presence blocking the counter. "Yes?" he drawled, his tone dripping with condescension, not a question but a challenge. "Another issue with the heating? Or perhaps you're here about that outstanding balance on Unit 3B. He didn't wait for a response, continuing, "Look, we don't have time for people like you to waste our resources. These apartments aren't free, you know. Maybe try the community center down the street if you're looking for handouts." Imani felt a familiar sting of anger, but her composure remained absolute. She had faced this before. "Actually, Mr. Thorne," she began, her voice calm and level, "I'm not a tenant, and I'm certainly not here about any arrears." Thorne scoffed, a dismissive wave of his hand accompanying his words. "Right, and I'm the Queen of England. Everyone always has a story. What is it this time? A leaky faucet you swear you reported last month? Or perhaps you're trying to get out of paying for that damaged window." He leaned in, his eyes narrowing. "Let me be clear. Hope Heights has rules, and they apply to everyone. Now, if you're not here to settle your account, I suggest you make an appointment. My time is valuable." Imani took a slow breath, her internal resolve hardening. "I assure you, Mr. Thorne, my purpose here is professional. I wish to discuss the operational efficiency of this facility and its broader community impact." His smirk widened. "Operational efficiency? You really expect me to believe that? Please. You're just trying to talk your way out of your responsibilities." Thorne's voice rose, carrying across the small reception area. "This is precisely the kind of behavior that sets back progress. Always looking for an angle, always trying to circumvent the rules." He gestured broadly, encompassing the few residents now looking on. "These people," he declared, "they think they can just walk in here, demand things, and ignore their obligations." A few residents shifted uncomfortably, recognizing the familiar, prejudiced rant. Among them, Aisha, who had just stepped out of the elevator, stopped dead, her eyes widening in dismay as she recognized the woman Thorne was berating. Imani's face, though still composed, now held a steely glint. The line of professional courtesy had not just been crossed, it had been utterly obliterated. De-escalation was no longer an option. Imani took a deep, almost imperceptible breath, her calm demeanor suddenly shifting, replaced by an unnerving stillness. Her eyes met Thorne's, and for the first time he saw not a tenant, but something else entirely, an unyielding, powerful force. She reached into her pocket, her movements deliberate, and pulled out her phone. The casual device, in her hands, felt like a weapon. The chatter in the office died down, replaced by a tense silence. Imani's voice, now low and firm, cut through the quiet. "All right, Mr. Thorne. If that's how you wish to conduct business, If this is how you choose to treat the people who matter most to this project, then we'll handle this another way. She began to dial, her gaze never leaving his, a promise of impending reckoning in her eyes. Dr. Imani Rhodes stood calmly in the Hope Heights management office, her phone held to her ear, the quiet hum of the building, a stark contrast to the escalating tension in the room. Her voice was low, clear, and utterly devoid of emotion as she gave precise, brief instructions. Initiate immediate withdrawal protocol. Full divestment. Send the team. Mr. Silas Thorne, still reeling from her unexpected pivot, managed a dismissive scoff. He leaned back against the counter, a sneer twisting his lips. Who are you calling, honey? Your landlord? Your boyfriend? Nobody with real influence answers to a phone call like that. You're wasting my time, and frankly, yours. The staff behind him exchanged uneasy glances, and a few residents lingering by the reception area watched with bated breath. Thorne believed Imani was bluffing, a desperate tenant attempting a theatrical exit. He was oblivious to the calm before the storm, the calculated precision behind Imani's words. Mere minutes later, a low rumble vibrated through the asphalt outside Hope Heights. Two sleek, black SUVs, polished to a mirror sheen, glided silently into the parking lot. Their arrival commanded instant attention. Doors opened in unison, and from each vehicle stepped sharply dressed professionals. Two men and a woman, all in impeccable dark suits, briefcases clutched with an air of undeniable authority. Their presence was a stark, almost theatrical contrast to the mundane hum of the community project. Residents paused. Staff members stiffened, and Mr. Thorne's dismissive smirk faltered. The trio moved with a singular, purposeful stride, their gazes fixed, heading directly for the management office entrance. A palpable silence descended upon the entire complex, broken only by the rhythmic click of their expensive shoes on the linoleum floor. Thorne's eyes, once narrowed in contempt, widened with a flicker of uneasy recognition. The impeccably dressed team swept into the Hope Heights management office, their presence immediately transforming the atmosphere. They walked directly past Mr. Silas Thorne, who stood frozen, his mouth slightly agape, an aborted greeting dying on his lips. They didn't spare him a glance. Instead, they moved with deference towards Dr. Imani Rhodes, who remained standing firm, her quiet dignity unwavering. Dr. Rhodes, the lead man began, his voice respectful yet urgent. We came as soon as you called. He extended his hand, which Imani met with a firm shake. Thorne's world tilted. His face, moments ago flushed with arrogance, slowly drained of all color. He stammered, a guttural sound escaping his throat. The hushed whispers of staff and residents filled the sudden void of comprehension. The pieces of the puzzle began to click into place, forming a picture of dawning horror. Thorne's voice, now a pathetic croak, finally broke the silence. Dr. Rhodes? You? You him? You're the investor? Imani turned to face him fully, her gaze unwavering, calm but firm, holding the weight of undeniable power. Yes, Mr. Thorne, she stated, her voice resonating with an authority that silenced every breath in the room. I am the woman who has been funding this project, the woman whose foundation ensures Hope Heights remains a pillar of this community. The shock rippled through the entire office, a collective gasp from staff and residents alike. Thorne recoiled as if struck, his empire of arrogance crumbling before his very eyes. The man he had dismissed, humiliated, and judged based on her appearance was the very hand that fed him, the silent architect of the community he so carelessly managed. Imani's gaze, steady and unwavering, bore into Thorne. After what you just did, she continued, her voice low but piercing, humiliating me in my own project, treating me with such blatant disrespect in front of the very people we aim to serve, I see no reason to continue our arrangement. Her words were a surgical strike, directly connecting his prejudice to his impending downfall. Thorne, his bravado utterly shattered, began to beg. Dr. Rhodes, please. It was a misunderstanding. You have to understand, this place needs me. I need this place. His arrogance had finally crumbled, replaced by a desperate, pathetic fear. But Imani stood tall, an immovable force of righteous anger as her legal team began to open their briefcases, the rustle of documents a grim prelude to the unraveling of everything Thorne thought he controlled. The air in the Hope Heights management office crackled with an unyielding tension. Imani's legal and financial team, efficient and unfeeling, wasted no time. With practiced movements, they unzipped their briefcases, laying out a series of official documents across the worn counter. Pens clicked with a chilling finality. Dr. Rhodes, the immediate cessation of all funding and the full withdrawal of capital from Hope Heights Community Project, as per the terms of the original investment agreement, is ready for your signature, one of them stated, his voice devoid of emotion. Mr. Thorne watched, his eyes wide and disbelieving, as his lifeline was systematically unraveled before him. He was stunned, utterly powerless, as the process to pull every single cent of Dr. Imani Rhodes' investment began, right then and there. His empire, built on her generosity, was collapsing with terrifying speed. As the legal team worked with cold efficiency, Mr. Silas Thorne finally found his voice, a desperate, pathetic croak. "Dr. Rhodes, please. I didn't mean it like that. It was a misunderstanding." He wrung his hands, sweat beading on his brow, his usual arrogance replaced by frantic pleading. "You have to understand, this project needs me. I need this project." He gestured wildly around the office, trying to appeal to her, to anyone. But Dr. Imani Rhodes remained unyielding. Her face, once gently observant, was now a mask of steely resolve. She didn't look away, nor did she meet his desperate gaze. Her silence was a heavier condemnation than any shouted word. Thorne's pleas, once so loud, now sounded hollow and pathetic in the face of her unwavering decision. Imani finally turned to Mr. Thorne, her gaze direct and unwavering, piercing through his desperation. Her voice was low but carried an undeniable authority that silenced even the rustle of papers. "You should have thought of that before you judged me, Mr. Thorne." Her words were not a question, but a statement of absolute truth. "Respect is something you show everyone, Mr. Thorne, not just the people you think can afford it." Each word landed with crushing weight, a moral hammer blow to his crumbling facade. Thorne flinched, his head recoiling as if struck. The stunned silence that followed was absolute, the onlookers absorbing the profound lesson being delivered. He had no reply, no defense. Imani's words had sealed his fate, not just financially, but ethically. Without another word, Imani turned back to her team. They presented the final documents, the official papers that would sever all ties between Rhodes Philanthropic Group and Hope Heights' current management. Her calm hand moved deliberately, signing her name with elegant precision. Each stroke of the pen was a nail in Mr. Thorne's coffin. The withdrawal was now official. Thorne watched, utterly helpless, as the documents were swiftly gathered. His empire, built on a foundation of prejudice and false pride, was crumbling before his very eyes. The rustle of papers and the quiet clicks of pens were the soundtrack to his complete undoing. His vacant stare reflected the full, devastating reality of his loss. In the doorway, Aisha, along with other residents and staff, watched the entire scene unfold. Her initial disbelief at Thorne's behavior had given way to awe, as Dr. Rhodes' true identity was revealed. Now, as Imani signed the papers, a quiet satisfaction settled over Aisha's face. She understood the profound implications of what she was witnessing, not just for Mr. Thorne, but for the entire community. This wasn't just about money, it was about justice. It was about respect. Aisha nodded slowly, a silent validation of Imani's actions and the righteous comeuppance being served. The power she saw in Dr. Rhodes was not loud or flashy, but deeply rooted in integrity, and it resonated deeply within her. The harsh fluorescent lights of the Hope Heights management office felt colder, sharper, now that the room was empty. Papers, once neatly arranged, were gone. The heavy oak desk, once a symbol of Mr. Silas Thorne's perceived power, now stood bare and desolate. He sat slumped in his chair, head in his hands, the silence of the late evening deafening. It wasn't just the funds that had been pulled. It was his entire world, unceremoniously dismantled. His job, his reputation, the false sense of control he'd meticulously cultivated, all of it had evaporated in a matter of minutes. The space, once bustling with his commands, now echoed with the hollow realization of his utter failure. His empire, built on sand and arrogance, had collapsed. Days later, a different kind of energy hummed through the communal areas of Hope Heights. The dramatic scene in the management office had been witnessed by many, and word spread like wildfire. Residents gathered in small, hushed groups, their conversations a mix of shock, satisfaction, and a nervous uncertainty about what came next. "Did you see his face?" one whispered, a hint of glee in her voice. "He deserved it, but what about us?" another worried. Aisha, who had been an eyewitness to Thorne's humiliation and Imani's powerful revelation, found herself at the center of many discussions. She recounted the events with a quiet conviction, reassuring her neighbors that the woman who funded their homes was now in charge. A faint, fragile hope began to replace the fear. The story of the arrogant landlord and the powerful disguised philanthropist was too compelling to stay contained within the walls of Hope Heights. Within a week, it exploded across local news channels and social media feeds. Hashtags like #JusticeForHopeHeights and #PhilanthropistUnveiled trended, painting Mr. Silas Thorne as the villain he truly was. News anchors dissected the dramatic reversal, highlighting the blatant prejudice and the swift, decisive comeuppance. Thorne's face, once sneering, was now plastered across screens and timelines, often accompanied by unflattering captions or photoshopped images. His reputation, once merely inflated, was now utterly destroyed, a permanent stain on his name across the entire city. With his name now synonymous with prejudice and incompetence, Mr. Silas Thorne found himself in a professional wasteland. He attempted to find new work, sending out resumes, making calls, but the doors that once opened for him were now firmly shut. Calls went unanswered. Interviews, when they happened, were cut short the moment his name or former affiliation with Hope Heights was mentioned. He was radioactive, an object lesson in the consequences of hubris. His professional exile was absolute, a direct and unyielding consequence of the disrespect he had so freely dispensed. The man who had judged others by their appearance now found himself judged and found wanting by an entire community. Meanwhile, at Hope Heights, a new chapter was already beginning. A week after the incident, Dr. Imani Rhodes returned to the management office, but this time, she walked in not as a disguised observer, but as the undeniable architect of change. The office had been subtly redecorated, imbued with a warmer, more inviting atmosphere. She introduced a new project manager, a kind and empathetic woman named Sarah, who shared Imani's vision for community empowerment. Dr. Rhodes announced immediate initiatives: improved maintenance, expanded community programs, and a new resident council to foster true partnership. The atmosphere shifted palpably from uncertainty to a vibrant, tangible sense of hope and positive, proactive change. Months later, Hope Heights pulsed with a new kind of energy. Where once there was apprehension, now there was vibrancy. Dr. Imani Rhodes had not simply replaced a manager, she had instilled a philosophy. The community flourished under new programs: a brightly lit learning center for children after school, job training workshops for adults, and a weekly mobile wellness clinic. Residents were no longer just tenants. They were active participants, their voices shaping the project's future. Imani made regular, visible visits, not in a suit of power, but in comfortable clothes, chatting with Aisha in the now thriving community garden, listening to the elders, laughing with the children. Her presence was a testament to respect, a tangible connection that had been sorely missing. Hope Heights was reborn, a true testament to what happens when leadership serves with dignity and genuine care. The transformation rippled through individual lives, nowhere more evident than in Aisha's apartment. Empowered by the new resources and a sense of belonging, Aisha had transformed her passion into a profession. From her small, meticulously organized kitchen, she launched Aisha's Home Flavors, a catering business that quickly became the talk of Hope Heights. Her small business logo, proudly displayed on flyers, was a beacon of possibility. She confidently interacted with customers, her gratitude for the stable home and supportive community radiating from her. Aisha became an informal ambassador for Hope Heights, her personal story of resilience and tangible success, a living testament to Imani's vision. Her thriving venture proved that with the right foundation, dreams could indeed take flight. But while Hope Heights blossomed, the world had withered for Mr. Silas Thorne. Months after his public humiliation, the once impeccable property manager was a shadow of his former self. He was seen shuffling along desolate street corners, his clothes disheveled, his eyes hollow. He had lost everything: his job, his savings, even his modest home, all crumbling under the weight of a ruined reputation. The arrogance that once defined him had curdled into bitter resentment, regret his only constant companion. Thorne, once so certain of his own worth, was now utterly alone, a cautionary tale whispered through the city's professional circles. His fall was complete, a stark, undeniable consequence of his own prejudice and pride. Dr. Imani Rhodes, on the other hand, moved with purpose and renewed resolve. Her philanthropic work continued, her name now synonymous with impactful, ethical leadership. Her story, once a quiet whisper, became a resounding lesson for other landlords, investors, and community leaders across the city. A new gleaming plaque on her office wall, Community Leader of the Year, was not just an award, it was a symbol. She hadn't just taught Mr. Thorne a personal lesson about the cost of prejudice. She had taught the entire community, and indeed, anyone who heard her story, one about the profound power of respect, the true meaning of leadership, and the enduring strength of a vision built on equity. So remember this truth: prejudice has a cost, and sometimes that cost is everything. It strips away opportunity, destroys reputations, and leaves behind only regret. But respect, true respect shown to everyone, regardless of their appearance or perceived status, builds communities, fosters growth, and empowers lives. This story of Dr. Imani Rhodes and Mr. Silas Thorne isn't just about a landlord and an investor. It's a powerful reminder that every interaction holds the potential for profound impact, and that the person you might look down on today could very well be the architect of your tomorrow, or the very foundation holding up your world. So remember, never judge a book by its cover, because the person you look down on today might just be the one signing your future and supporting your community tomorrow. If you're enjoying this video and stories where true character prevails, then hit that like button and comment where you're watching from. I'd love to know how far this story goes, and make sure to subscribe for more narratives where resilience meets injustice, and justice comes full circle, empowering us all to build a better, more respectful world.